2017 F250 6.2 liter water pump, belt, tensioner, and idler pulley. Change just for preventive maintenance, I guess. First thing you got to do is remove this air cleaner induction system, and so that's simply this hose clamp here, 7mm, this one, or unclip it here and take the whole lid off. 7mm there. And then over on the other side is two hoses. One you take off with a pair of pliers, which is here. The other has got a connection that comes from your PCV, top of your valve cover, and you push this, actually push this connector in, lift that up, and then pull the connector out. And it hooks right onto there, right there. So that's it, and then this thing actually pulls forward this way. It fits in some grommets, it pulls forward toward the front of the truck, and then you lift it out of position. So we're going to get it off of there. This is the grommet holes that the breather actually fit into. There's one on that side, there's one here, and you can see that it pushes in here and then it slides forward, which pushes it over your piece of your throttle body as well. So and then you can see I've got the top off, so that makes it all a little bit easier to get to the fan clutch and the shroud and different things. Okay, next thing we've got to do is we have to remove this shroud piece here that has these connectors here, and we're going to, there's a bunch of them, and we're going to do it with this tool right here, just by working that tool up underneath the pin and then lifting it up. And then we'll take out all of these. You can do this with a screwdriver, but it's a lot easier with this tool. Amazon, I think $4 or $5. Okay, we removed it, and that's what you got. So next thing is we'll take off the power steering pump reservoir. It's just that bolt on the top. I think it's 8mm, and then we just kind of move it out of the way. But you can see we're getting it stripped down to where we can actually see some stuff and get to the fan clutch eventually here, and get the shroud off. Okay, so now we remove this 10mm bolt here and relocate the power steering fluid container. I'm just going to take and tie strap it, I think, to that radiator hose there, so that it's just out of the way of removing the shroud. Okay, there's a hose clamp, I'm sorry, a zip tie around this hose here. Let's see if I can get it out of the way. It goes through that little gizmo there and clips or just ties this hose to the shroud. I just clipped it, and then I'll put a new zip tie on it when I'm finished. Okay, now there is I don't know if I can get to it with the camera, but there is a bracket right there, and it's got a stud with a nut on it. That's actually the bracket for the fan clutch wiring harness, and that has to come off. And again, it just kind of hangs free, but that's the next step. Okay, so there's a plastic clip here and a nut here and a bracket. So that has to come, that nut has to come off. This clip this connector has to disconnect as well. I broke mine, but there's a piece sticking out here that has to lift, and then you pull it out. So I broke mine, and I'll have to figure it out when I put it back together. But that disconnects from there, and then the nut has to come off of here, and then that bracket slides off and comes off with the fan clutch. Okay, so this is there's a little piece on the bottom of the fan shroud, and I'll show it to you from underneath in just a minute, but it's got clips, so I want you to just kind of see where I am on the engine. Okay, so this clip right here has to come out of the fan shroud, and it is the same style clip, just a little bit larger, as was up here on the top cap. Okay, so this just pulls out of the center here, and then it slides out, and then this piece, you can see where it's connected, will come loose, and that is the bottom half of the shroud. And this is what it looks like. So just a little bit larger than the ones that were holding the top cap on, but that's what it looks like, and there's two of them, and there they are. Okay, so it's time to break the fan clutch loose. I did spray a little PB blaster around the nut. It's pretty rusted. I don't know if you can see that down in there, but it does have a lot of rust around it. So I sprayed some blaster around it and let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes, not very long. This is a brand new McGraw, $19.99, $14.99 if you're a reward member at Harbor Freight, but it is new. And I bought the fan clutch removal kit from Amazon, and I found that the 47 millimeter fit better than the 1 7/8. So I'm using the 47 millimeter wrench, and I have already broken this loose, so you're not going to see it for the first time, but I just want you to see how this thing works, and I think you can see it right there. You just put a little bit of pressure on it and bump it down, and it goes to it. It did take me a couple of squirts to make it work, but it did work, and it pulled it off, and it is loose, and we're going to remove the fan clutch now. So that's the air gun, and then the shaft, and then the wrench that fits onto the shaft, that just kind of gives you the ability to be able to remove that. You just drop it down on the nut and hit it with the air a couple of times, and loose it comes. And this is a I am taking it off lefty loosey. Okay, so we are turning it left just like a bolt to remove it. This next bolt is going to be very, very difficult to see. I am laying with my head to the driver's side of the truck, and I'm laying left to right, but with just under the bumper, and you can see the fins of the radiator. That is the top. This is the bottom. Okay, and the bolt, you can see the drain cock right there. The bolt to the bottom of the shroud is just to the right of the drain cock. Okay, and you can feel it up in there. It goes in that hole right there. I don't know if you can see that. It goes right there, and it actually has a nut on the back side of it that's actually made onto the shroud, and it's up there where my finger is. So that is the bottom bolt, and there's one on the other side that's the same. So I think you can see that good enough. I'll also show you a shot in the manual that kind of tells you where that bolt is. But you can see now I have this side loose and the shroud is loose, okay? Okay, and the top bolts are right here. So there's the shroud, top bolts there. There's another one on the other side. Again, 10 millimeter, top and bottom bolts are both 10 millimeter. I've got them all loose, and hopefully this thing will pull on out of here. Okay, so you just got to kind of carefully manhandle the shroud out, sitting over by the toolbox, and then that's what you got here. So it's just those 4 bolts, 10 millimeter bolts in the shroud, and then it comes off. And I got that tied off to the hose, and so we're ready to start replacing the water pump, the belt, and the idlers and tensioner. That's what the goal is. Okay, so I put the new tensioner on and 2 idlers, but guess what I forgot to do? Take the water pump bolts off of the pulley while the belt was on. So I've got to put the belt back on and to remove the pulley. The book says 18 foot-pounds on these 2 bolts and these 3 bolts. Doesn't seem like a lot. I know they weren't very tight when I took them off, but that's what the book says, 18 foot-pounds. Okay, so got the tensioner and idler pulleys replaced. Got the pulley off the front of the water pump because I put the belt back on it and loosened the bolts. And there's 4 bolts in the water pump. I've got 3 of them out. There's another one down at the bottom that I'm about to remove now. And you can see, I think, I have a large transmission drain pan up underneath it, so that hopefully it'll catch some of the antifreeze that comes out of the front of the pump. Okay, the water pump is off. I'm filming by myself, so I don't have all the live action shots, but what I did basically to get the pump off was put a crowbar, full-size crowbar, on the flange where the pulley bolts to the water pump. Put it behind that flange, and then put the shaft of the crowbar right here, and then just pushed and tapped a little bit, and the water pump came out. I kind of held it with my hand as well, just to keep it from shooting forward and hitting the radiator. I'm not sure how much I caught in my pan below, but I think I got more on the ground than I got in the pan, but it's down there. I just not sure exactly how much I got there, but anyway, I got the new pump here, and I went back with gates, everything, pump, tensioner, belt, the whole 9 yards. So, but you know, whatever you use is up to you. Okay, so after I cleaned the mating surface where the pump was going to fit, I did use a little bit of Scotch-Brite around the inside of the hole as well as the outside, just to clean it up. It looked fine, there was no issues, but then I put, according to the instructions, I put fresh coolant on the O-ring and the steel or the aluminum surface where the pump mounts, or where the O-ring mounts, and put the bolts in and just tighten them like you would lug nuts, you know, a little bit on each side, and kind of draw it in evenly. So it looks like it's on. I'm going to torque it down and start going back together with it. Okay, so everything's torqued. The belt is back on. Bolts are all torqued to the spec, and everything's good. So tomorrow night, I guess we'll start putting it back together, shroud, that kind of thing. This is the driver's side of the truck. In the very front, draining the antifreeze out of the radiator. And you can see the hose on the little nipple that sticks out, and then that's the drain valve right above it. And you just loosen it to the left after you put the hose on, and let it drain out into the bucket. This is the Maddox Harbor Freight antifreeze refill gadget. Vacuum fill. So the air from your compressor goes in this side. You have a gauge here that you're watching for vacuum. As you turn this valve, it starts vacuuming the system down, just like you would with AC system. And then you're going to take the clear tube with this valve, and it goes into your antifreeze bucket, and you suck brand new fresh coolant into the system. Okay, I filled the coolant back up. Basically, what you're doing is that thing builds that vacuum up to about 23, 24 inches of vacuum. You shut the valve off, just like with AC. You watch to see if the gauge eases back up. If it does, you got a leak somewhere. My gauge set good for about 10 minutes. I sucked the new coolant into the system, and when it gets to 0 on the gauge, it's full. Pretty amazing, actually. But anyway, it does work, and there's lots of videos online about vacuum filling. I didn't go through all that because it's kind of a two-hand job, but anyway, I just wanted you to see that it does work and that it was really easy to do. I wanted to show you this shroud with it removed from the vehicle so that you can actually see where the bolt holes are and that kind of thing. So the top ones are self-explanatory. When you open the hood, you can see them, easy to get to. The bottom ones, however, are a little bit more of a trick. So there are down on the side. There's one here, and then the other one's over here on this side, right there. And they are out of the way and hidden by the frame, and you can't really see where they are. So you just got to kind of feel it, put a socket on it, and go with it. This piece of the shroud, as you can tell, looks like it's removable, and it is. So the push pins are in here that hold it in. You saw take out earlier in the video. But down below, there are these little tabs that you have to push up, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those tabs, and then that actually pushes up, and then this slides down into the shroud. Okay, so that is very handy to get the shroud off so that you can get it around the fan and all that kind of stuff. So it's really a two-piece shroud. You just need to use you know, a little common sense when you're looking at it, and you'll be able to figure it out laying underneath it. Push the little push plates up, and then take the push pins out of the side here, and it will actually slide down into against the radiator, and then you can remove the shroud a lot easier. I also wanted to show you this fan clutch. I don't have any problems with the fan clutch to my knowledge. There's no issues with it. Everything worked fine. I did break that little clip that goes into this push plug here, the other side of it coming out of the harness. I broke the little clip off of it. Not a big deal. Tie strap it together, or put a little dab of silicone on there when I put it back together. But I did want to show you this. That's a rubber bushing that actually acts as a shock absorber for this bracket. This bracket bolts to your frame or the motor, front of the motor of the truck. And so I'm looking at this and I said, well, I'll just get the new bushing and put in there. And they don't make one. So you have to buy the whole, fan clutch in order to get any of this bracket or plug or any of this stuff. Ford does not make just that bushing. Again, I don't think there's any problems with my fan clutch. I've not had any issues. I just know that if this bushing completely deteriorates, this bracket's going to be down in this pieces that move. So probably not going to be a good scene. So I'm replacing the fan clutch. And again, I've got about 88,000 miles on my truck. So just something to look at and think about. Okay, I'm trying to get up in here. I forgot to take a picture or video of that new bushing. And this is the new fan clutch, and you can see that red rubber is actually a polyurethane that looks like bushing instead of that foam rubber bushing that was in the other one. So they've improved that, it looks like, but that is definitely an improvement, I think, and I hope it is. And the other one is just sad because there's nothing wrong with the fan clutch, just that bushing. Okay, so everything is put back together, and I know that you didn't get any video on that, but the biggest thing is when you put the shroud back on, you cannot get it on with the fan in place. You have to take the fan off anyway. So what I did is I took the fan blade off of the fan clutch. I lifted up the shroud enough to get my hand in there, and I got the fan clutch put in place. Then I lifted up the shroud enough to get the blade set in there, and then tightened the blade down onto the fan clutch. You can't do it by yourself because somebody's got to be down below holding the shroud up, and then somebody's got to be tightening it up. So my wife did all the tightening up at the top, and I held up the shroud at the bottom, and everything's good. So put your wiring harness back in place underneath. Just push your clips back in, and replace your reservoir, and that's about it. I know that I didn't get a lot of video of the reinstall, but it takes two people. Some of you smart guys may be able to do it by yourself, but it took us two people. This is the only part of the job that did take two people, and but that's just the way it is. You're gonna encounter a little bit of resistance when you get the shroud in place. It hits the frame at the bottom, and it has to push past that frame. So if you slide it in from the top and it hits something at the bottom, it's hitting the frame. So you need to get somebody down below to reposition that, get it in the correct place, and then pop it down from the top. So that's kind of where we are. The only thing left to do right now is to tighten the fan clutch. I did not tighten the fan clutch because I thought I may be able to have to move it around a little bit. So I've got to tighten the fan clutch, but it is installed and it is in place, and we'll just tighten it up and we should be good to go. Okay, the last thing to do is to put that bottom piece of the shroud in place. There's one of the tangs or one of the pieces you have to push in, and then remember it just sits in place. I did install it in the shroud when I put the shroud on. I didn't put it in place, I just put it in the bottom of the shroud so it was there. And then all I had to do was, once I was complete, is pull it out and put the tangs in place, and then the push pins, put the push pins back in place that are on each side. We did the push pins from the top. And again, I had help. Very difficult to do by yourself because you need to be able to now hold it let somebody put the push pins in and then push them in, and that's the way you do it. Very simple with two people, but probably pretty difficult by yourself. So that is the final piece of the job. And so we have replaced both the idlers, the tensioner, the belt, the water pump, and now the fan clutch because of just simply that bushing. During the video, you're going to hear me talk about torque specs and nut sizes, bolt sizes, that kind of thing. But always check some kind of printed literature or the internet, whatever you feel comfortable with on your particular application. That way you can make sure that you have everything for your truck. Thanks. Okay, so the 2017 F250 6.2 liter cooling system preventive maintenance is complete. I used that Maddox vacuum filler, worked great. Very, very, very good tool. Wish I had it years ago. The pneumatic fan clutch wrench kit, don't remove a lot of fan clutches, but let me tell you, it takes it off fast, puts it on fast. You got to use it in conjunction with an air hammer. I bought just an old cheap air hammer, and then that kit, everything worked great. So the Hercules 12-volt ratchet got in some tight spots that, you know, and some of those bolts are long and you just wrench and wrench and wrench and wrench, but that thing got in there, buzzed them right off. You're also going to need a 7mm, 8mm, 10mm, and 13mm socket and something to drive them with. My prayer is that God blesses your family, and I hope this video helps.